Peace to the God. Shout out to the goddesses. Naafie in the building. POE the gang. Sun is kind of shining. Hold on. Let me scoot this up just a smidgen. All right. So, I've gotten a question or two in my inbox about cardology, what it really is, what it really means, all the type of stuff. So that's this video. What is cardology, right? And we gonna keep this short, sweet, simple. We ain't gonna be in front of you too long explaining this thing, right? So cardology is the study of the playing cards in relation to the astrological bodies, right? So essentially it's astrology with playing cards, right? The planets are all still involved within the interpretation as well as getting the cards themselves, you know what I mean? And along with that, each of the symbols have a meaning kind of similar to tarot, but the reality is that cardology was the original form of card divination, right? There's beauty and simplicity. So the simplicity of the symbols, let alone why we are afraid of tarot cards, but not afraid of playing cards, lets you kind of know what really resonates on a soul level, right? So brief history of the cards, right? Before Egypt, there was a land they call Atlantis, right? And I know that sounds kind of outlandish and all of that, but if you know, you know, right? Before Egypt, there was a land called Atlantis. In fact, Egypt, or what we know as Egypt or Kemet, was actually a pre-city of Atlantis. Because we know that the world was much more interconnected back then than it is now, right? So Egypt was actually, Kemet was yet another pre-city of this land they called, or what we can call Mu or Atlantis, right? Now, what's interesting about these different cities is that we had a better understanding of our world on a cosmic level. So we didn't absorb ourselves too much in the material in that sense, right? We actually studied the stars, right? That was the only real religion we had, right? If you really study Kemetic science, you'll see that each of the so-called gods and goddesses actually represented aspects of the human psyche, right? And that you could also see these within the sky, right? Things like Orion's belt and so on. So when we begin to talk about the signs and even the planetary bodies, they take on a different meaning when we realize that they're symbolic of something versus taking them literal, right? So this is what we studied. This is what we was on. And to this day, even in our various holy books and etc., they're still symbolic, right? And the reality is that they still relate to the stars. Of course, in the Bible, the three magi follow the North Star, right? AKA Venus, right? So moving forward from that, right? We came up with various systems to be able to study this science in a more efficient way, right? Income playing cards, right? When we understand what each symbol means, right? And I actually have a PowerPoint on this in the shop. It's called The Art of Playing Cards. You can go ahead and download that. It's free. Go ahead and do that. Each symbol has a specific meaning. Diamonds representing what you value. Spades representing transformation, your inner fire, etc. Clubs representing the mind, mental pursuits, and then hearts representing, your emotional body and relationships. And all of these are associated with an element as well. So when we start getting into realizing that these things are symbolic, then we start to understand why it has a deeper meaning to us, right? As I said, each of the four suits has a specific meaning, as well as a specific element, and it relates to a specific season. So it's, hearts represent spring, clubs represent summer, diamonds represent fall, and spades represent winter. And if you if you go back in the video and listen to what I said about what each suit means, you'll then start to understand. And again, all of this is in the PowerPoint as well. You'll begin to understand why certain elements are associated with certain seasons, right? So that is pretty much just the basics of cardology. And even still, each of the numbers represent something, right? If we know what numerology means, if you're in the nation of gods and earths, you understand supreme mathematics. And to me, supreme mathematics and numerology both mean the same thing, right? The meanings are usually delineated the same. So then you start to get into, now you start to understand what each individual card means, right? And one thing that was interesting to me about studying cardology is that the meanings are malleable in the sense that you have to interpret it based on your particular situation, right? So, for example, this card of the day. I can't remember the card of the day off the top of my head. But let's just say I'm an 8 of hearts, right, in cardology. So let's actually talk about that, right? So you have what's called a birth card in cardology, right? And I'm not going to talk about the planetary ruling card because that's a whole different cup of tea. But you have what's called a birth card in cardology. And you can kind of sort of equate it to a sun sign, but then you have what's called a planetary ruling card, which is based on your sun sign. So it's the same but different, right? But your birth card is you can call it like a personal signifier of who you are, what some of your attributes are, what type of person that you could possibly be, right? Because we live in a realm of infinite possibilities. But generally speaking, the birth card is pretty accurate, right? So this birth card is pretty much going to be the basis of your readings, right? It's going to determine how we interpret different spreads, which we have what's called a life spread in cardology, which is pretty much your birth chart for your entire existence here. Then you have what's called a yearly spread, which would be similar to transits in astrology, which is basically year by year, moment to moment, etc. Right? So with these different personal signifiers and different ways to interpret periods of that year or periods of your life, right, we start to get a picture of the different things that can happen, right? And I really don't like to be on the prediction type of wave. I more so think about it being like a fork in the road, right? So when you are going through different scenarios, or let's say someone reads you and say, hey, you're gonna get a lot of money this year, right? A better way to interpret that is to say that you're gonna be presented with opportunities to make more money this year. More opportunities will be presented to you to make more money this year. To me, that sounds a little bit more accurate than saying, hey, you're gonna make bread. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're always gonna make money, but those certain opportunities may be more in abundance based on where the spread is, based on where the energy is, right? Cardology has been used since I don't know how long, right, to predict certain things happening to a near accurate degree, right? When you really understand the spreads, when you really understand the cards and how they work, you can predict a lot of things. For example, my yearly spread for this past year, for the year I was 26, it was accurate all the way through. No hiccups, everything was on point, right? And you'll find yourself, really getting involved in it, because not only does it tell the story of our people, right? And it's in different holy books, right? For those who know the Bible, the little book, I think it's the little book of the Seven Thunders. I think that's the full name. The little book of the Seven Thunders. It's a passage in the Bible, right? Where I want to say Paul, but don't quote me on that. I'm gonna just say a man. A man was given a book by an angel, and he swallowed the book, and it was bitter to his stomach, and he now had to go prophesy to many nations, right? Well, this little book, right? Little book, once you understand the symbols, the playing cards are kind of similar to a small book, because within its pages, you can find a lot of information both about yourself and about the world around you, as well as what's to come, right? Because again, remember, our life is symbolism, right? How we talk, how we talk, how we move, and the things that happen in our life are symbolic to who we are. And even this whole existence itself, this whole existence itself is symbolic of the divine nature that is the all, right? The infinite intelligence. We are symbolic of the infinite intelligence. I am symbolic of the infinite intelligence within you, to give you some game. So once you realize that this life is really, signs and symbols, period, this is a sign and symbol that has a meaning based on a particular show, Naruto. Cut my back right quick. This is a sign and symbol, right? That's a sign and symbol based on the Akatsuki, right? So, and that has a specific meaning to people based on the meaning that they assign to that show or to that group, right? Even this shirt has a meaning based on, this hoodie has a meaning based on who has an attachment to the show, right? Once you realize that this life is signs and symbols, you then begin to realize that, life becomes a little bit simpler for you. Even the letters in the alphabet are just symbols, to be for real, right? The numbers are symbols, right? And we can keep going, right? Our life is signs and symbols. So having an understanding of that, now the playing cards have a different meaning. And think about it, right? And I'm melanated, right? So power to the people. But we as melanated people have always been in love with playing cards. And even, our not so melanated people have also loved playing cards, things like illusion magic, things like poker, blackjack, right? And then of course the melanated people, right? Spades, chomp, pity pat, goldfish, I declare war, what's pinochle, there's lots of card games, right? But for some strange reason, playing cards hold a different type of energy for the human populace. Not only that, but they're easily accessible. Why? It seems so simple, like a deck of playing cards is like $1 and some change. You feel me? It don't cost that much. But you now have to ask yourself, like, why, whether we are, how should I say? Whether we really, I guess, understand it or not, we still have, we'll have an affinity for playing cards and want to play playing cards. But when we look at tarot, for some, it's an apprehension. Why? And as a sidebar, the word tarot comes from a word that means foolishness. Take it how you want it, right? That's what, what I'm saying? That's the etymology of the word tarot, right? Whatever. My point being, and real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the tarot associations and cardology, cartomancy. Cartomancy is literally divination using cards, right? And then cardology is what I'm talking about in the video. If you add those who know tarot, right? There's something called the major arcana, and then you have what's called the minor arcana, right? Quick tarot shit. You have the major arcana and the minor arcana. And all of this is in the PowerPoint as well, so you don't have to memorize everything I'm saying. I'll leave a link for the PowerPoint in the bio. You have the major arcana and the minor arcana, right? Major is, things like judgment, temperament, the death card, the tower card, all of those with specific names, right? Those with specific names and titles. Then you have the minor arcana, which is your 4 pentacles and so on, right? If you take out the just do the math for me whenever you get a chance. If you get a chance, if you actually care that much about, diving deep. If you take out the major arcana, and I think it's the Knight, of each suit for tarot cards. You have how many, you should, I guess I was magical fantastical, that's why the video cut off. It is what it is. But like I said, if you take out the Knight of each suit and the Major Arcana, you should have 52 cards, which equals the deck of playing cards. Something to think about. So like I said, this is just a brief synopsis. This is just like real quick, like of what cardology really is. Like I said, the art of playing cards will be in the bio of this video. It literally says everything that I just said in this video. So I highly encourage you to check that out. And if you're wanting to learn more about the science, I highly encourage you to book a consultation with yours truly. Let's talk about it. I'm one of those people that I would rather teach you how to do it than do it for you. So that's essentially what my consultations are, is me teaching you whatever you need to learn for your particular situation, whether it's cardology, whether it's marketing, whether it's business, whether it, well, marketing is related to business, but whatever, whether it's artist development, whether it's spiritual development, etc., etc., etc. That's what we do, creative consultations, literally. So other than that, guys, have a good day or night, whenever you choose to watch this. I'll see you next time. Peace.